We are Rogue Media Sports.
Oh, happy Monday to you. Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. Zach Burke getting us on the air. I'm Cam Stewart. Man, we have had some big-time news this morning, Zach, in a couple of different fronts. I keep having to send you clips. There's a lot going on in the Boston sports landscape on this Monday morning. And the most boring of it all, of course, is the fact that the New England Patriots played yesterday and got crushed again, 30-13 to San Francisco. I stopped myself last week. I stopped myself, Zach. I didn't put myself in any kind of Jets thing where I was like, here's how the Patriots can win the game. There was no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you got Deebo Samuel out, George Kittle out, then maybe it would fall into place kind of like Cincinnati did. Those guys were both in. They both played well. And the Niners just, I don't even think they got it out of second gear, man. They just kind of took care of business. Brock Purdy, pretty pedestrian game, but almost 11 yards of completion, touchdown, pick. Only took one sack, and they got the car in the garage big time. They went up 20-0, win it 30-13. And it's just kind of same old story with the Patriots. Same old story. Completely inept offense. Jacoby Brissett does hit the 150 mark. Throws for 168 and a touchdown, a pick as well. He turned the ball over twice. The Patriots turned the ball over 3 times. And as bad as the personnel is on this team, you can't also afford to lose things like the turnover battle. The thing that basically won them the game in Cincinnati was forcing a fumble at the goal line, forcing a fumble on special teams for a short field, breaking up an interception in the end zone. That's what I keep saying now. They took away points in that game. They give away points now. They throw a pick 6, strip sack on Brissett. Ramondre Stevenson fumbles again. 4 fumbles in 4 games. He's going for 1 for every million he's getting paid this year. I mean, at what point do you go, Ramondre Stevenson's a little underwhelming, to Ramondre Stevenson is a complete liability? Because I think that's where we're at right now. He's no longer just, he's not giving us enough. He is taking away from us. Taking away. And the last 2 weeks, you've had opportunities to really establish a run game against teams that have struggled against the run this year with the Jets and the 49ers. And both times, Ramondre Stevenson has not cracked 50 yards. That's an ineptness all the way around. It's not just Ramondre. It's this offensive line too, which, I mean, what more can you say about them? They were the worst in the league at full strength, and now they have 3 regular starters down now, and 1 that you just got back in this week in City So. And we said, like, man, if you don't have David Andrews, you are completely screwed. Now you might not have David Andrews. Goes out after the first drive of the game. Andrews gone. Caden Wallace gone. Still no Vidarian Lowe. City So just barely back. Kyle Duggar on the other side leaves the game early in the first half. No Jawan Bentley over there. Obviously, no Christian Barmore. You traded Matthew Judon. You are already a bad team that is being stripped down even further. Jabril Peppers obviously not 100%, although he did have a pick in yesterday's game. The Patriots are going to look like a Pop Warner team here. And boy, next week, the Patriots and the Dolphins. How worse can it get? That is going to be the biggest sicko committee NFL game maybe I've ever seen. If it's Hundley versus Brissett and this Dolphins team against this Patriots team, my God, batten down the hatches. This is a game for Chris Broussard to love. I wouldn't tell you what he'd call it, though. Oh, man. It's another frustrating one to look at and say, like, why can't you just throw Drake Maye in there? And I know there's a big faction out there of, like, he's going to have to take hits anyway. Why not just throw him out there? You look at a guy like Jaden Daniels who plays and gets better by the week because he plays. Or You could also look at Bo Nix, who's getting not better by the week as he does play. But I know there's a bunch of you out there that are saying he needs to take hits at some point. This is the NFL. But, I mean, Brissett's getting hit every play. And your offensive line is actually getting weaker by the week. Not just the way they're playing, the actual personnel you've got out there. And the one thing I was commending Brissett on last week is that it could be worse, and he's making it not worse. And the one thing that you really hung your hat on with Brissett is he hasn't turned the ball over yet through 3 games. He did it twice in game number 4. Awful pick 6. I don't know how you lose Fred Warner right there. And then the strip sack, it was back-to-back plays where he should have just thrown it into the ground, specifically on a 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4. He had a guy on a shallow cross. Just throw it at his feet. Throw it a little bit behind him. Instead, you take a sack. Next play is a strip sack where he's a yard over the line of scrimmage about ready to pass the ball. That's all you got to see from this Patriots team to know where they're at. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch Jacoby Brissett out there every week because the Patriots, to me, are one of 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that have to sit back and say, we are not going to have a standout performance from our quarterback the entire season. There's not going to be a single game on this schedule where he's going to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and carry the team. As impatient as we are with quarterbacks in the league now, the more that number starts to decrease. Because how many other teams in the league can say that? Miami right now, because their starter got hurt. Other than that, Tennessee, maybe? Shoot, Drew Lock can give you a 300-yard game for the Giants. Andy Dalton gave you one for the Panthers. Panthers are the worst team in football. They can't even say that the way the Patriots have to. It's a bad deal. It is a bad deal right now. And so at halftime, the Fox studio show goes to address that, notably Rob Gronkowski, obviously future Pro Football Hall of Famer, Patriots legend, and he has some thoughts on when the Patriots should look at Drake Maye, because most of us are thinking next week. Gronk says we might need to wait a little longer for that.
New England Patriot fans out there, I know what you're saying. Put Drake Maye in. This offense needs a spark, but I'm telling you, it will be the same old story with Drake Maye in if he replaces Jacoby Brissett. He'll be getting sacked. The offensive line will be letting guys go through, putting pressure on him. You don't want to ruin his confidence. Wait till at least
so beat
week
up
12.
on the old guys. That what
yes, that's what.
I don't know what Tara Bradshaw's yapping about there, but whoever does. First off, I do love that there's one person on earth who calls him Jacoby Brissett, and it's a guy who actually played with him, won a Super Bowl with him. But yeah, it is frustrating watching Jacoby Brissett. But if that's the approach or somewhere near the approach the Patriots are going to take week 12, that I don't know how many Patriots fans are sticking around for that. How many people are going to watch? How many people are going to be in the stands? We're going to have some beautiful fall weather over the next couple of weeks in New England. And how many people are even going to be at Gillette to watch Jacoby Brissett, apparently? See, this is where the May watch thing really kind of messes with me because I'm still somewhere in the middle here. I didn't want to see him go into that game yesterday because of how brutal it was. I mean, quarterback gets hit every time. It's the same thing we saw in the Jets game. They've given up 13 sacks in the last 2 weeks. I don't want to send my number 3 pick out there. There's part of me that wants him out there against Miami. You're facing a team that doesn't have a quarterback themselves. It's at home. There's some things there. But on the flip side, you would say, well, this is also a very winnable game because of that quarterback situation for Miami. So maybe you put Jacoby Brissett out there, you get to 2-3, and then you work in when you can go with Drake Maye. And I understand that as well. But where I don't understand it is week 12. That's like Thanksgiving. We don't need to wait that long, I don't think, if this is going to be your product the whole year. I don't necessarily think this offense is going to look way better because Drake Maye's out there. There's still going to be a ton of pressure. There's still going to be separation issues for these wide receivers. I think all of those things are still there. I don't think it gets significantly better. But you're talking about a team that physically, like, they cannot score 28 points. They would need a couple of non-offensive touchdowns to get to that number this year, or very short fields. Like, there's not a team in the league other than maybe Tennessee, or in this case, Miami, with their quarterback injuries, where you say they can't score 28 points in a game. But that's where the Patriots are at right now. And Jerod Mayo has doubled down, basically said he's our quarterback, but he also told the Greg Hill show this morning on WEEI that Drake Maye did outperform Jacoby Brissett in camp. He has doubled down on that. And he also says, well, there's some context things around it, because of the experience that Jacoby Brissett gives us the best chance to win right now. I wish that point wouldn't be be brought up so often, that Drake Maye did outperform Jacoby Brissett, because it's just going to make the fans more pissed off. It's just going to make us less patient to hear that the backup guy is actually better, but we can't play him yet. Because I'm telling you, that's a failure across the board. Just that simple fact that the coaching staff is not putting the kid out there because of the rest of the team is so bad, is such a damning mark on this franchise. And I said it last week. I wonder if there's some attrition there between what Jerod Mayo wants and what Elliott Wolf wants. Because right now, the Elliott Wolf tenure is no bueno. And you look at what they didn't get accomplished in free agency, and the one offensive lineman they went out there and got quit. After 2 weeks, he quit the team, quit football, just walked out on you. And he wasn't that good to begin with. That's a bad look, man. And the running back you're paying $9 million a year is fumbled in every game this year. And, your defense has taken a hit. And I thought it was a decent trade for Matthew Judon, but people are going to start looking at that too. And you did not reinforce anything on the offensive line so that your number 3 overall pick could play. And your offense is a disaster. And it's run by the guy that Elliott Wolf brought in, Elliott Wolf's guy. And honestly, I look at some of the quarterback free agents that were out there. It's not like you had no options. Russell Wilson was a free agent. He's getting like a minimum. I mean, what did they trade Justin Fields for? Like a 6th-round pick or something? 4th-round pick? You couldn't have gone out there and got someone like that as your bridge quarterback instead of Jacoby Brissett? No, you didn't, because Jacoby Brissett is Alex Van Pelt's guy. And Alex Van Pelt is Elliott Wolf's guy. So it all comes back to that. That's something I do want to focus on tomorrow. I mean, that is like a bad chain of events, chain reaction there that has you having Jacoby Brissett out there instead of potentially an all-pro, Pro Bowl quarterback from yesteryear like Russell Wilson. Jacoby Brissett was never that. Or a guy who was a big-time prospect picked in the 1st round of the NFL draft not all that long ago in Justin Fields. Jacoby Brissett was never that. And instead, here's what we got, Jacoby Brissett. And you've got a team that has been doubled up in total yards back-to-back weeks. Actually, that's not fair. San Francisco took a knee on the last play of the game so that they finished with 431 total yards, and the Patriots had 216. Meaning if they had just run a play instead of kneeling it down, then they would have doubled up the Patriots in total yards. But instead, they took a knee because they were up 17 points. And the Patriots were never close in this game. It's the 2nd straight week where you're like, there was never a point in the game where they had any hope. None. It is the most hapless team that we've had in here for a long, long time. And that includes last year because their defense kept them in games longer than this year's defense does. But we all knew that. It was a sorry situation. Around the NFL, there was one clip that I really got into. I thought was very funny. I didn't watch this live. I saw this after the fact, Zach. But it was the Bucs-Eagles game. Tom Brady on the call with Burkhardt there. at his old stomping grounds, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. And they brought up a quote that Baker Mayfield had about his time in Tampa. And I loved Tom's response to it.
Said, quote, "They wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun." It's funny because you've made this environment for me very stressful up here in the booth, so I understand where he's coming from.
Do you feel it?
No.
Feel the stress? No. Well, I was going to say, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. So there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day. This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I was going to go to Disneyland with my kids.
Talk yo shit, Tom. Talk your shit, man. Let them know. I love that. We heard that for years around the Patriots. Oh, it's not fun there. No one has any fun. Yeah, you know what's fun? Winning Super Bowls is fun. And Baker Mayfield will never feel what that feels like as a starting quarterback. Good, nice little career renaissance here. He's not winning a Super Bowl. And I love that Brady comes right at him and says, yeah, you know what? You want to have fun? Go play for some losers. Heard that with Lane Johnson for the Eagles for years. Oh, they don't have any fun over there. And some of these, end of their career guys that would come in, Steven Jackson and Reggie Wayne and those guys. Oh, it's not any fun. Yeah, it was pretty fun when they won the Super Bowl 6 times. Tom Brady 7 times. I would say that's fun. To hear anyone around the Buccaneers organization bitching about not having fun when they were a completely irrelevant franchise that Brady made into the most relevant in football in 1 year, that's asinine to me. How can anyone from Tampa say, oh yeah, but it wasn't fun? You won the Super Bowl because of this guy. He instantly brought your team back on the map, and he brought the best tight end of all time with him. He cemented your best ever player's legacy in Mike Evans, and you won the Super Bowl. Wasn't fun. Give me a break, dude. Grow up. And Brady essentially calls them pussies without calling them pussies there. Yeah, if I wanted to have fun, I'd go to Disneyland with my kids. This is my life. It should be yours too. I just can't believe anybody was stressed or complaining about a stressful environment. How can you complain about a stressful environment when you just won the Super Bowl? Your whole life has changed because of that guy. Yeah, great team, but make no mistake about it. That guy who you were stressed to be around changed your franchise, changed your guys' life. Baker Mayfield will never know how that feels. Wish him nothing but success. But I'm glad that Brady didn't take any shit there. And I'm glad that they teed him up for it on Fox. Because all he needs to say is, yeah, you know what's not stressful for me? Winning Super Bowls. Not winning Super Bowls is what's stressful for me. These kids, man, they'll never learn. They'll never learn. And we heard that stuff like following the Patriots forever. And those who have multiple rings all say, like, who cares, man? And Belichick was the best coach I ever played for. They expected more out of me. They got more out of me. And we won all the time. But you know what? If you value having fun in your NFL career more than immortality and winning Super Bowls and achieving the ultimate team goal, then yeah, go play for Baker Mayfield. Go play for Todd Bowles and all his playoff wins. Go play for Tampa, who has an illustrious history outside of the Brady years. Go ahead. Be plenty of fun. You'll know exactly when your season's ending for the most part. You'll get Valentine's with the missus. You won't have to do that extra travel in the winter. But it will be a whole lot of fun. I can guarantee you that. And I'm glad that Brady talked his shit there. I really am. That's all he needs to say. He's got to use 2 hands for how many Super Bowl rings he's got. Baker Mayfield's worried about having more fun. God, the hero that Tampa needed. Baker Mayfield having so much fun, bringing so much fun to the Bay. I wish there was more fun in New England. I'll take that at some point. Whew, Maron. That was bad. I mean, no more Nothing else to say on that. Although I will point out one thing. Nothing else to say, but I'll say one more thing. The Patriots, after their final 2 scores of the game, so they kicked that 1 field goal before half. That was the longest in Patriots history. What a highlight. They scored a touchdown early in the second half. San Francisco, 55-yard catch to Deebo Samuel, pass catch to Deebo Samuel on the very next play. They kick another field goal in the 4th. Next play for San Francisco, 46 yards to Juwan Jennings. So in your 2 plays from scrimmage defensively after you scored, you gave up 101 yards. Talk about having a backbone. Talk about having a backbone. Search for one on eBay or something. Speaking of eBay, the Bruins are looking to buy. They're looking to buy their own goalie. And today, there is some drama around the Boston Bruins because they have revealed the price, and Cam Neely did it in the most Cam Neely way possible. So who is at fault here in this Jeremy Swayman holdout? That's coming up next on The Cam Show. Sports. Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. Love talking some Bruins. Love breaking down preseason Bruins. I was ready to come on here, talk about Fabian Lysell going down to Providence and how I was kind of right about that all along. But bigger news came through because the Bruins brass had a press conference this morning, Monday morning. Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, Jim Montgomery, Jeremy Jacobs, all of them there. The whole brass of the Boston Bruins in there to answer your questions. And of course, one of the ones that came up was about Jeremy Swayman. And there were a couple interesting answers to me, but of course, the first one has to come from Bruins President Cam Neely when they asked, like, can someone give us some details on what this contract was going to be?
Can you share any of the Can you share any of the specifics here, be it what his ask is in terms of dollars or term?
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now.
64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now. Whoo! That's one way to put it, Seabass. God, I love Cam Neely. Oh, man. You could tell, and you could tell this a lot with Cam Neely in these kind of press conferences, like he's seething inside. He doesn't want to do the politicking bullshit. He just wants to tell you. And we now essentially have the parameters of the contract. We heard they were looking at 8 years and that both Swayman and the Bruins had agreed on 8 years. And now we hear the Bruins have offered $64 million. Sounds like we have the parameters of the contract. 8 years, $64 million, $8 million AAV. I think a lot of Bruins fans are going to side with the club even more now, because I think a lot of Bruins fans see 8x8 and they say, that's fair. That's fair for a goalie who has been to one All-Star game, won one playoff series, but shows a ton of promise to be our foundational franchise goalie. We've had Matt Barry on this podcast. We talked about the same thing. 8, 8.5. Yeah, that sounds right. 9's a little crazy. 10's definitely crazy. That's what we're hearing from the Jeremy Swayman camp. 10 is too out there. 8, I think that should be a deal. I don't know what other NHL team is going to give 25-year-old Jeremy Swayman more than 8x8. And so now all of a sudden the narrative is tipped on its head here in the last week, and specifically this morning, that the Bruins are the ones who are probably in the right here, if you want to say that. Because as they said, and I think as most fans would say, it's like, of course you don't knock a guy like Swayman for testing out his market and trying to get a bag. But what more of a bag is he going to get than that? 8x8, that is top end franchise goalie money. Now, I know it's not going to be in 2 or 3 years when the salary cap goes up and Shesterkin really resets the market after this year, but right now that's what it is. And Shesterkin has more to his resume than Jeremy Swayman does. And I really like Swayman. I want him to be the Bruins goalie. I really do. But anything more than 8x8, that seems like an overpay. Maybe 8.5, sure. But I just think Cam Neely was fed up with this back and forth and people not believing that the Bruins were handling this well. And of course, there's still things you can look back on as to how they're not handling it well. Kevin Paul DuPont had a question in there. I don't have this one on tape, but he did ask, did you guys have any kind of talks beforehand, have something in mind before trading your other goalie within the division? And it was kind of a non-answer by Sweeney. That's why I didn't put it in there. But like, that has to be the real question to me, is like, how did you not even know in the ballpark what Swayman was going to look for if you traded Ullmark? How did you not go to either guy's representation and ask that? Because either of those guys could give you 55 starts and you'd still be a top-tier goalie. They've shown that over the last 2 years. Swayman was an all-star this year. Ullmark won the Vezina the year before. So you had a luxury of having two of those guys, and I'm wondering if they picked the wrong guy, not based on talent, but based on negotiation. That's the big thing that's standing out to me, is you've allowed Jeremy Swayman to hold you over a barrel because you traded Ullmark and you wanted to get that in before the draft so that you could get this reach prospect in Dean Letourneau. That's what is surprising to me. And to hear this today, 8x8, that has me in the Bruins corner on this. 8x8, that is a good, fair contract. I'm sorry for the resume. That's a good, fair contract right now. And it just makes that $10 million AAV more wild, because you heard the 10 million and then you heard the Bruins 6 by 6.3 or whatever it was reported by Spit and Chicklets. And you're like, okay, well, that makes sense because that Bruins offer seems way off. And so no wonder they're not, they're allegedly not talking, which Don Sweeney pushed back on. But to hear that the offer is 8 by 8, it's like, man, what are you waiting for? That's like watching a mediocre changeup go right down the middle at 3-2. It's like, what are you waiting to swing at? You need a fastball at 93 when you just missed a changeup at 89. It's like that's a hittable pitch right there. I don't know why you're not signing at 8 by 8. That is a team showing you that we do want you to be our franchise goalie. And I know you want a little bit more because that salary cap's going up in a few years, but they didn't sign you to a 2-year deal in arbitration. You got one. You can't get everything in life. Sometimes tough shit. If you were a free agent the next year, it would be a different deal. But right now, 8 by 8 is more than fair for you to be the franchise goalie of the Boston Bruins. Because I hear all the time, I still hear about how cheap the Bruins are. And I look at Charlie McAvoy's contract, and I look at David Pasternak's contract, and I think these guys are foundational pieces for the next 10 years of your franchise, and they are getting paid handsomely. They are getting paid as such. Pastrnak is one of the highest AAVs in the freaking league. 11 million, whatever it is. Like, that is, there's not much more you can ask for there. And to hear that your goalie, who I really like, but has won one playoff series, is saying, I'm not signing an 8 by 8. That's a worse look on Swayman than it is on the Bruins right now. Of course, we don't know the whole story. The Bruins obviously have a chance to get more proactive with this, but we do know who Swayman's agent is. We know his history with holdouts and what William Nylander needed to do just to get on the ice, because the agent was content with holding out in through the season and William Nylander was not. We know that Swayman's GM will push the envelope right to the very limit. And we now know what the Bruins have offered. That's what we know in the story right now. And based off that, it's tough to be in Swayman's corner all the way here. You respect the guy for going for the bag, but 8 by 8's a pretty good bag for a goalie in this league at his age and through his accomplishments. I just, that seems more than fair to me. Anyway, the problem right now is that he's not playing. And if this is right, that he's not willing to sign 8 by 8, this could well go to the limit December 1st. I know the Bruins are confident that he is going to play for them pretty soon, and we had heard all kinds of people around the NHL saying this is a deal that's going to get done before opening night. But now it looks like the Bruins are not seeing it that way, because they asked Don Sweeney and Jim Montgomery about it, and they had a pretty interesting answer as to who will be the goalie night one.
Swayman is obviously not here. How concerned are you that it's going to affect the rest of the team at this point?
Well, I think our staff has done a really good job of recognizing the players that are here, and that's where the focus has been. And, Bob Essenza has worked, as I referenced early in camp, that he would work extensively with all of our goaltenders, but he feels comfortable with the work thus far that Korpisalo has put in, the game that he's played thus far. And, Monty will probably comment further in terms of what his plans and decisions will be moving forward. I mean, we're getting late enough into camp that it's unlikely that Jeremy would be, in a position. But, today's a new day to continue to have a discussion and hopefully bridge the gaps that still exist.
And I would piggyback on that and saying where we are in camp right now with how well camp has gone, how well Korpisalo has done is right now, he's going to be our game one starter.
They have resigned themselves to the fact that Joonas Korpisalo is going to be their opening night starter. There are worse things in the world, trust me. But that is not a happy brass that are up there. And Don Sweeney trying to keep it, very kind of vanilla. And the head coach saying, you know what? The guy hasn't signed yet. We want him to sign, but he hasn't signed. And we've got a season to play. We've got 22 other guys in our locker room. We got to push forward. So right now, Joonas Korpisalo is our guy. If Swayman wants to be our guy, he can go sign 8x8. But that's essentially what your head coach is saying there. And obviously, that's what you want. You want your coach to be behind the guys that are in your locker room. But there is a palpable sense of frustration there. And I probably shouldn't have, but I did. I cut off like 5 awkward seconds at the end of that clip. It was a weird feeling in there because everything we've heard throughout the whole summer was that this was going to get done. It'll get done. Don't worry. Everyone's on the golf course. It'll get done before training camp. It'll get done before the start of preseason games. It'll get done before the start of the regular season. And now we're hearing the head coach say, no, it's not. Korpisalo's our guy right now. And that's what we're working on. And that's what we are planning for. And if that's what the Bruins are planning for, this season could be tilted on its head right away. Because as good as your D-core is, in as solid a team as you have, your strength has been your goaltending. And I know the people saying, goalie Bob Essenza always makes it work. But we're talking about a quality dip here, big time. From Olmark Swayman to Korpisalo Bussy. Ooh, yeesh, man. I mean, Don Sweeney went and got Korpisalo in that deal just to have some depth. And it significantly reduced the cap hit that they would have gotten rid of if they had just traded Olmark for plenty of other guys. Instead, you bring in a kind of expensive Korpisalo, and it turns from a $3.5 million cap hit to a $1.15 million cap hit difference instead. And that is a clear sign that they were looking for a goalie, an NHL goalie, because they weren't ready for Brandon Bussy. And now just their depth guy, who was supposed to give you 25 games, is your opening night starter. And Brandon Bussy is on the bench. If his game goes to shit or he gets hurt, Brandon Bussy is the guy that now goes in there. Oof. I'm not saying like hit the red button, but this is not a great mindset for the Bruins to have, whatever, a week or two before, a week and a half before their first game. Not the mindset that they want to be in. And I wonder if we're just getting closer and closer to Jeremy Swayman having a William Nylander moment and telling his agent Gross that, like, I got to play. Do what it takes. Like, how close are we to Swayman pulling a Nylander and telling that agent, I've got to sign? If that's their number, then let's do it. I want to play for this team. I want to play in the NHL right now. I think we're going to be teetering on that because the Bruins are now openly discussing what that contract offer is. And we're only hearing the Bruins side of the story. Jeremy Swayman, I'm sure people are telling him to be quiet, but he's got to be sitting back there thinking, this is making me look really bad. And I don't mind $8 million a year. I know you want $10 million, and I would love that too, but I don't mind $8 million. And I think that day is hopefully coming up soon, because if you push it all the way to that December 1st, that's bad news for the Bruins. Like, that is, I don't want to say throwing your season away, but kind of close to it. We had Matt Barry, Bruins Benders podcast. He kind of brought up the old anecdote of you kind of need to know where your team is at by American Thanksgiving. And playoff teams, on the whole, are in playoff positions on American Thanksgiving. That's what made the 2019 St. Louis Blues thing so crazy, because usually you're at least in a playoff spot by then. You get a foot in the door, you get in the dance, and anything can happen from there. But at this point, if you are waiting till December 1st just to get your starting goalie, you're almost putting yourself up Schitt's Creek for this entire season. And that's a real bummer with the team you've got, some veterans who are low on time, some of the guys you brought in free agency, to just punt the season because your 25-year-old goalie won't sign 8x8. That would really stink. That would really stink if that's the case for the Bruins. But it's all signs are not pointing towards Jeremy Swayman being the opening night starter. Even the coach said so, who hasn't said anything on this whole thing. But now he believes Korpisalo needs to be in between the pipes for game number 1. Oof. Bad for the Bruins. Big bad Bruins getting bad Bruinsed. Anyway, we're going to talk to Pete Souza in just a few minutes here. We've got a death in the sports world today. Pete has had an incredible weekend, a weird weekend. We're going to go over some things with Pete. That's coming up next on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Pete.
Yo, Cam.
One and only.
All right.
How's it going?
Are we live? Are we going?
We're live. We're going. I might put
I can't see you. Not that it matters, but.
Well, you're not missing much.
By the way, I was just listening to you. You sound so good and professional.
Stop. You're always saying that about me.
No, you really do. I was like, man, that Cam is really bringing it. And you got the phone number up there now?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the text line.
I expect you to. I think is it just voicemails or is it text too, Zach? Do we know that?
Zach, what up?
You said it's both. You can text me. You can text me. Pete, where are you at right now?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's a nice place you got there.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice, right? Yeah.
It's
nicer than
that's streaming money.
Huh?
It's streaming money. How was the event this weekend? You were at an interesting event. You want to tell the people about that?
Yeah, I got one more game tonight.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, it's the content creator Kai Cenat has retired from streaming late last week, or I guess early last week, and he said he wanted to play pro basketball. So for the past 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday, that's what we've been doing here. He's been playing against 8 and 9-year-olds in the Little Baller Association. You can watch the game tonight on his Twitch. We've literally, Cam, had like hundreds of thousands of people watching every night.
Wow. It's kind of like
around the world, they say millions.
Kind of like the Cam Show.
No, not like the Pete Souza Show either.
No.
I think if Corey Dickman had his druthers, we'd throw a Rogue logo up on the screen, but I've looked into it. We can't make that happen. The closest we
that's
can come to that is me teaming up with King McClure, our Rogue Media teammate. King's the analyst on the games, and a colleague of mine at ESPN. But it's been so cool. It's been a first-class production. If you watch the game tonight, you think you would be watching an ESPN broadcast or a TNT broadcast.
Well, a couple of pros, 2 ESPN guys.
Yeah. And then tomorrow night, of course, right? Always a bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm this close, but for the playoffs, Sean Grandy, your boy from the Celtics, and Richard Jefferson are going to take over the broadcasting duties. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're just like a local affiliate. You just
Totally.
go to all the games, you travel the whole season, and then they tell you to get lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, but and it's been such a cool experience. So, like, you know me. I didn't have any real handle on this scene coming into this week, and boy, it is a scene, dude. Like, and there's a lot of money, and there is a lot of attention. Like I've done, ESPN games where you'll get people to ride you in on Twitter. There ain't nothing like a Kai Cenat chat.
Oh man,
people are very complimentary too. When they like you, they put a W before your name, so you get like Wheat Sousa. If they like what you're doing, a lot of W's, and then there's L's too.
Leet Sousa.
Leet Sousa, but there was a lot of Wing McClures. Everybody likes King.
Yeah. This is great. Pete's gonna have to give us some good streaming a streaming glossary, so to speak, Zach. I've heard in the interviews you roll with the punches. I know there's no way you know half the stuff they're talking about, but you roll.
Well, I learned it. I mean, it's just like it's almost like in you as a play-by-play guy doing this. Like, if China Spring plays a high school that you've never even heard of, there's an access to certain amounts of information that you can find, get your mind around, and go with that. Like they have this, the company that's doing this is called Blue Duck Media. Of course, they're out of New York. And they sent us like a Bible for this tournament before or this regular season, which will be the playoffs soon, like last Friday. And it's got everything I needed. Like I have, I'm sitting here in front of my boards for tonight, Like I can tell you that Ajani Howard on the New York Sky, he plays just like Kyrie Irving. And is this
like a 9-year-old child?
Yes, he's 9 years. He's actually Ajani Howard is 8 years old. He's 4 feet 3 inches tall. He's a great dancer too.
Have you had a chance to interview the kids yet? I know you've talked to Kai.
We have not. I've talked to the kids. I have not interviewed them yet. The sideline reporter, Autumn Johnson, she's handled that. So here's Autumn, right? She literally last night. Lil Ty, who's, if you know the streaming world, is a big deal. Lil Ty, but really, she asked Lil Ty, she said, he's a grown-up now. She said, what's your favorite thing about, the LBA? And he said, well, I like watching Kai and I like you. Like, that's the kind of, like, you're getting, like, Joe Namath type sideline reports. It's pretty
Is that Riz? Were people saying Riz in the chat?
Riz, apparently, Kai created Riz.
No.
That's what they say, dude. Yeah.
I think everyone created Wiz.
Yeah. Riz.
That's W Riz, by the way. Get it?
By the way, this is not only so I just my show, I'm doing a 30-minute open. And then we're using this crossover for the Pete Souza show. So
wow. The Pete Souza show. How about starring Pete Souza as Pete? How about then we go over the big news of the day, by the way? Big basketball news of the day, kind of out of nowhere this morning.
Dikembe
Mutombo, no longer with us. Brain cancer. Did you even know about that? I was like,
I did. I had read that he was sick. Having worked for the Sixers, I had heard from some people that it was serious. I had no idea he was gonna, like you said, pass away. He was not only a legend. I think he was NBA Man of the Year a few times.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if he wasn't, he would certainly be like in the running for that. Like, just talk about like a great guy, man.
A great guy. Great. You've talked about Riz. right? Dikembe Mutombo he was a character with character, and he certainly had a lot of riz. I was in Philly after he was. I worked in PR. It's not like I was a power forward, but all you heard was like amazing stories about how good of a guy he was, and about how he was just a gregarious dude, would just hang with everybody and treated everybody the same.
Yeah, to think of you as a power forward is ridiculous.
3,289 blocks he had. Second most all time. Okay, so I thought of something I wanted to ask you.
Okay, let's do it.
So
I'm in.
I'll tell you. Elijah Wan is number 1.
Correct.
Dikembe is number 2. Do you know who 3 and 4 are? It's going to be hard. 3 you can get. 4, I'll be surprised.
Okay. Shaq.
No, but he was this third guy was also a Laker.
Okay. Kareem.
Yes.
Just playing for so long. Yeah.
You're very good.
I would like an elite shot blocker, but good enough, and he played for 20 some odd years. And so the fourth guy I'm never gonna get.
Out of the Western Conference, played primarily in the 80s.
I was gonna ask my lifetime, so no. A
big guy.
Did he win an NBA championship?
No.
Did he even come close?
No, not really. I mean, his teams didn't suck, but he was with an organization that had some very good years, but he was not with them when they did.
Yeah. Okay. It's like a Spur.
No.
I'm trying to think of like dynasties that happened, but not with.
Zach, isn't it funny how Cam will go to the wall with this stuff? Who did Zach say?
Zach didn't say anything.
Okay.
Is it a Warrior? I wouldn't be able to tell you like a single Golden State Warrior from those days.
It's not a Warrior.
Is it a Magic?
In the Western Conference.
Oh, that's why I
with
missed the
illustrious
Western
history.
Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay. Damn.
It would be Magic, Zach, if it was a member of the Orlando Magic.
I was thinking Dwight Howard for some reason. I don't know why.
I had thought about throwing that guess out there as like, I don't know. He played a long time. Good shot blocker.
This is a great question, dude. Because when I say him, you're going to have heard
a perfect Jeopardy question of who's the fourth leading block shot guy in NBA history.
Because I'll tell you,
Okay.
up until from 1 to 8, these are all Hall of Famers outside of Mutombo and this guy.
Hold on.
Zach's cooking. Zach's really cooking now.
You better not be on the goddamn internet.
I am, but I'm not looking up. I'm looking up stuff
He
for
needs
bros.
to be on the internet for us to stay on the air.
That too. We lost it right before. Did he play in?
Did he?
No.
Definitely not him.
Did he play in Salt Lake City?
Yep.
I think I know who it is then.
Go ahead.
It's not the mailman.
Right, because he's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Bearded dude?
Yep.
Do you know it, Kim?
No, go for it, Zach.
Is it Mark Eaton?
Yeah, Zach.
Hell yeah, Zach.
I want to thank
That's
all
what
my
I'm talking about.
all my years of playing 2K basketball and having to figure out who the fuck Mark Eaton was.
Mark Eaton, man.
Mark Eaton. And so Mark Eaton was 4, Duncan 5.
Late Mark Eaton, I believe.
I think he's passed away.
Yeah.
Robinson was 6, Pat Ewing 7, Shaq was 8, Tree Rollins was 9, and the Chief, Robert Parrish, was 10.
Chief.
Yeah.
As a guy who played the most career games of anyone in history, I think.
The Chief?
Parrish. Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's
Okay.
the most regular season
I'll
games
look
played.
that up.
Yes, Mark Eaton did pass away, unfortunately, in 2021.
All right, Kim.
Led the league in blocks 4 times, yeah.
Since we're sharing the
number 53, that's the ugliest number. Ugh.
it looked good on him though.
Yeah, big white stiff. It always would. Yeah.
So the story. So by the way, the story about Dikembe as it relates to the Sixers. So he was playing for the Hawks, and he played in the All-Star game, and Larry Brown was the coach. And Larry Brown came back from the All-Star. First of all, this is typical Larry Brown. He told like Theo Ratliff, like I forget what he told him, but was like because Theo Ratliff was the Sixers center. He was like, "You're my guy," and blah blah blah. So he comes back from the All-Star game, and he is like up Billy King's rear end, the GM of the Sixers, and is like, we got to get Dikembe. We got to get Dikembe. We got to get Dikembe. And finally, like shortly thereafter, they finalized the deal to get Mutombo. And Mutombo was a huge part of that Sixers finals run, where it was Iverson and a bunch of slop.
Yeah.
But he was one of the best. He was, we're talking about Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, Tyrone Hill. I mean, it's possible that Dikembe was the second best player on that team.
Yeah. Who else would you say?
I don't know that I'd say anybody else. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Aaron McKee was the sixth man of the year. I feel like I might be forgetting somebody. But yeah, I mean, I think it was Dikembe. Now I got to look it up.
Let's go.
Can't imagine I'm forgetting anybody to be from that team. But yeah, he was amazing. And it's 51, right? That's how old? 51?
58.
58. Okay, that just blows.
Pete, before I get out of here, I did mean to ask you about this or talk to you about this because I'm sure you've seen the movie before. But got back Saturday night. We had an early game, so I took a nap. And then I was just like, I want to watch a basic movie that I'm not going to have to think about too much. Maybe take a nice little multivitamin and watch the movie Blue Chips.
Oh man.
Oh, it's not a good movie.
That's rewatchable for us to do.
We should. It's not a good movie, but it's
But it's a great movie, if you ask me.
But it's one that I love watching. Nick Nolte, great stuff. Like I just love how far they take like kind of the common tropes of college sports or just hard ass coaches. Like that first scene when he's yelling at them to get them fired up is like so ridiculous. Like you've been in locker rooms. I've been in some locker rooms. Like that is way over the top, right? Like,
well, when you're talking about the Bobby Knight era, though, is it?
I guess. Yeah.
Because that's kind of who he was. What's the guy's name? JT something is the guy who plays the booster. I mean, that guy is just my favorite character.
Like ultimate sports movie villain. Like
it's so good.
Like, I do think it's funny that he's divorced and he lives in like this dingy apartment, like one that I would live in working in local news. And I'm like, this guy has won 2 national championships. I don't care if his wife left him yesterday. He would be in such a better place than this. He would be in like a hotel that you're in right now. That's incredible. Like he would be at the Four Seasons in LA. He's basically
you know that so Bob Knight got divorced from his wife.
Can you blame her?
And can you blame him? Well, there's a whole thing there, but
I don't know the story like you do, Pete. Sorry.
I know. Like, I don't know that it was based on that, but I think it was loosely based. Bob Knight was in the movie too.
Yes. Yeah. Patino just yelling out like random basic basketball instructions. Like you'll cut back to him and he's just like, oh, get on the boards. Get on the boards.
The coaches in the movie are amazing.
No Krzyzewski.
No.
But Lou Carnesecca,
wow,
Boeheim.
Carnesecca was in there. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that too. They all happen. All the coaches happen to be at the same time, like be in the same place to recruit these kids.
Yeah.
They're all in French Lick at the same time, but they don't notice until the parade where Nick Nolte's driving the kid around. Oh my God.
By the way, we always say this, right?
Movie, but
we always say this with the way things have changed, but like that was basically NIL. I mean, like
yes,
NIL, but like pay for play. It's pretty interesting.
That's what I think is funny. Like kids watching that movie now, like it won't even register. Like 5 years from now, kids watching that are gonna be like, all right, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And like obviously it was kind of an open secret for some programs, but like, yeah, I wouldn't. I'm sorry, I thought of another one when they're in Chicago to look at Penny's character.
Yes.
And Tark is there. Jerry Tarkanian's there, and just not a good actor. Not a good actor. Like reading the lines very dryly, and he's like, Yeah, good player, Pete. But I don't think we can get him in. I don't think we can get him in with the grades.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I'm like, really? Jerry Tarkanian saying that?
Yeah.
Like he got anyone to come play at UNLV. Like nothing against UNLV.
Well, think about it. That's last week. Last week. But how funny it is now, right? How stranger than fiction. Last week, Barry Odom is saying to some recruit, "Hey, we don't have the money. We can't get you $100,000." Like if somebody had said told that about UNLV a couple decades ago, he would have said, "Get the hell out of here."
Best player from UNLV, probably Larry Johnson, who literally could not go to SMU where he wanted to go out of high school because of he wasn't academically eligible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had to go to Odessa College. Which whatever,
He was a Skyline High guy, right?
Right. Yeah, probably the best player ever to come out of Dallas, at least as a high school player. Like he was incredible. Yeah, Odessa College, which I used to cover, and they speaking of the hat, like they have his jersey in there, and then goes to UNLV. Obviously, Tark the Shark had plenty of cases where he was doing the Christian thing, giving a guy a second chance. So I just thought that was funny of like, no, we can't get him in. We can't get him in. It's like, yeah, you can.
That was so great, dude. As a kid growing up, like Tark with the towel, his wife had the rosary. I mean, like, it was like, oh, like, look at this wonderful story. And like, I know he had his reasons and he did help a lot of the kids out, but yeah, it's not exactly, Father Flanagan over there.
Right. Good call, Mother Teresa. Pete, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate you being a part of the Pete Souza Show.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it likewise. I like being on the Pete Souza Show. Sports Pete, Sports Cam. All right.
I'll be back there tomorrow so Zach can see me up close and personal.
Can't wait. You guys look out for that tomorrow, 11 a.m., the Cam Show live on YouTube. We bring that to you every weekday. For Pete Souza, for Zach, for Mike, for myself, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow on the Cam Show.